obviously today is a day where the nation is grieving, and we're talking a lot about a lot of issues and what could have prevented what happened in Uvalde, Texas. I wanted to kind of get your kind of first reaction and what your thoughts are on what happened there.
You look at this and it does keep happening. And the middle ground on this subject, where I think most Americans, where you get the widest swath of Americans, is that it's clearly a problem. When Democrats say other nations don't face problems like this, they're right. The issue is how do you resolve it, and what exactly is the problem? And it's not every single time, but it's the vast majority of times you have exactly what we have here. You have a very strange, maybe bullied, but a loner kid that just couldn't figure it out, that fell through whatever cracks of society, that just felt like he was isolated. He was all alone. He hated his life. He was angry. He was probably mistreated to some extent by people in his life, perhaps by his family. I don't know at this point, but certainly by his peers. You have somebody that 2 days ago, most of us would have felt compassion for and would have felt sorry for. If I would have met a kid like that who is always isolated, that feels like he has nobody, who's just weird, I generally, towards that person, go out of my way to be nicer. I think there's a lot of bad people in the country that see that person and just pick on them. I think most of us have a compassion for that person. And then they do something like this that's just horrific. And now the whole world hates him. And everybody is disgusted by him. We have to figure out what the problem is with these people. We have to figure out what went wrong. And we have to figure out how to identify these people before they can do something like this. Everybody's screaming about gun control right now. And that's exactly what you're going to get. And that's why situations like this are so politically useful for the left. And I do think they take full advantage of that. The problem with streaming gun control is that in reality, what they want to do is disarm the entire country, take every gun away. They don't want common sense gun regulation. They just want to take all the guns, because that's the only way it would work. Look at big blue cities where you have very, very strict gun control laws and you have gun violence ad nauseum. I mean, it's everywhere. There's gun violence. I live in New York City. You cannot get a gun here if you try. Try to get a gun in New York City. It's impossible. But we have gun violence all the time. There are guns everywhere. So it's a nuanced solution to this. And obviously there needs to be, it bothers me that this kid was able to just legally walk in and buy these guns, which is what I'm hearing is reported is what happened. That bothers me. That troubles me. I do think you need to find a solution to that. I think we need to have, I think people need to, it's so bizarre to me that you always hear people say after these shootings that it just seems like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense because he was that kind of guy. I don't know how we as a society learn to figure that out, but it's like, everybody in their life, has somebody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people have somebody in their life where you're just kind of like, there's something not right with him. And it's, and a lot of times it's just not till it's too late. And something like this happens.
It strikes me that, you're right. The gun conversation is the one that people go to instantly because there are partisan interests involved. But there's a cultural rot underneath so much of the rise that we're seeing, especially in the violent crime across the country. So yes, we're seeing a rise in school shootings. We're watching as last year, even in a condensed school year, you had more school shootings that reached some of those record levels, including this year. It's already on record pace. But that goes in line with the fact that we're seeing rises in homicide and on all sorts of violent crimes in cities across the country. And I can't help but think that this is connected to, ultimately, in some way, the COVID lockdowns, that sort of the whatever cultural rot we had in the first place accelerated dramatically when people were sent to their homes to live basically in solitary confinement, and then to be raised, in the case of our children, by the internet and their smartphones. Something very desperate and disconnected has happened. And I think we're seeing some of the consequences of it. Can we draw a straight line directly to the 18-year-old who shot up at Uvalde elementary school yesterday? No, not yet, certainly. But you look at even the Buffalo shooter in that manifesto that he put together, he claimed that all that time that he spent away from school being radicalized on the internet made him the person he became today. It feels like if we want to have an adult conversation, maybe we should look at the cultural fabric that's being destroyed.